If you struggle to retain viewers on your content, after 10 seconds, they are gone. The problem is not the thumbnail. The problem is not only the caption. The problem lies in the various points I'm about to review. One of the largest misunderstandings about YouTube is small content creators are yet to realize that YouTube is heavily ad subsidized. What do I mean by this? YouTube relies heavily on advertisements. If there's no engagement on your content, they cannot advertise. If they cannot advertise, they would not push your content. That's why it appears as though there is a large gap between small content creators and large content creators. Large content creators are averaging on the millions in views. The reason because their content have already been tried and proven engaging. YouTube, as a response, will publicize this content, push this content as much as possible. That's why when you, as a small content creator, a viewer quickly leaves your page or leaves your content, it signals to YouTube to stop pushing the content. In other words, they don't find it engaging. They don't find it interesting enough to keep watching. As I initially stated, YouTube relies heavily on advertisements. So once you cannot engage viewers long enough for them to show ads, they will not push your content. So this has nothing to do with spirituality or your village people or some superstitious belief you hold towards success. Of course, this might play a role. I don't want to get into manifestation and all of those abstract concepts. The focus for today's video is to review the various points that keeps your channel stagnant. So the first point we are going to highlight, you are scared of losing viewers. I know this sounds counterintuitive. How does my fear of losing retention translate into the actual loss of retention? If you've been following this platform for a long enough time frame, you understand that I see everything as cause and effect. I do not isolate incidents as abstract or it just happened. Life is cause and effect. There were chain reactions to trigger that incident. A lady doesn't get pregnant by some alchemy except you're married. There are a chain of reactions, series of actions to produce that outcome. And if this logic is true, and we are going to base our belief on this logic, if you fear losing retention, that mindset would compel your behavior to speak in such a way that makes you lose attention of viewers. For instance, it's most likely that you're going to speak at such a high rate of pitch, not letting your viewers comprehend the information that is being communicated, or you're going to speak in such a way that puts the viewer off. So you're just speaking. And this is the mistake I made at the infancy of my career. If you review my previous videos at the inception of this YouTube channel, you see exactly what I'm talking about. Here I turn on the camera, monotone, one pitch, and I'm just speaking. One of the reasons I found myself in that loop is not just as a result that I feared losing the attention of the individual, but I was recording from a fucked up device in a fucked up environment. The temperature was very hot. I don't know how to regulate temperature. using numbers, but it was very hot, like degrees, or using degrees rather, but it was very, very hot. In that situation, I would speak at such a high rate to avoid the temperature causing an abrupt pause on the video. Then every single thing I said up until that moment becomes a waste. The worst part about that device was when the video stopped recording, there was no signal that indicated that stop. So it was a very terrible experience. Anyways, that's not something I want to get into. But the point I want every single one of you to grasp is speaking at that pitch or speaking at that speed makes you come across as unprofessional. It makes you appear timid. And once you appear timid, it's most likely you're going to lose viewers. Because we as humans defer to professionals. On your wedding day, who do you want before you? A guy who's been doing makeup for 20 years, or a guy who just graduated beauty school. Exactly. Although you have not met the various personalities to identify if one is charming, if one is rude, the customer service, and make your decision. But you've already made your decision. Why? Professional, professionalism. We as humans relinquish authority to professionals. That's why we advocate for a good first impression. If someone does not deem you a professional, it's most likely that that deal will end up in an argument. You see this with I hope I got the pronunciation right. Evangelism. Some pastor approaches you. Immediately you deem that individual, a guy, a lady, as unprofessional, or the Spirit of God is not working his life. Perhaps using metrics like dress code, his level of vocabulary, his level of intellect. Every single thing he says will fall on deaf ears. So one of the keys to having a successful YouTube channel is not just a nice thumbnail or a nice apartment, a nice studio for recording. All of those are contributors to your success. But if you have every single advantage and your viewers do not identify you as a professional, your view count will invariably be low. So come across as a professional by taking your time to speak. In fact, if you're in the front desk of a company, if a CEO of another conglomerate walks into that office, you know exactly that he is the CEO. Not just using metrics like the level of security or the protocol behind him. Say he came as an individual. Within the first 5 seconds of interaction, you can tell. Why is this the case? His demeanor, his aura, the way he carries himself, the way he takes time to reflect on your question to show that he's not in a rush. From the various points I've highlighted, I believe you all are very intelligent individuals, and by now, you should have come to the conclusion, which is to take your time to speak, add cadence into your communication. You see this with Martin Luther King. He takes his time to communicate. Listen to this. I forgot. I won't be adding the audio, the voice tape. I want to retain originality in this video. I do not want skips. I do not want cuts. I want every single thing to be original. So forgive me. But you need to include cadence. Take time to pause. You're not pausing as a ritual. You're pausing to recollect your thoughts, to answer the individual sitting across in a very professional manner. If you're just speaking, and not having time to recollect, you will always make the same mistake as you previously did. So take your time to talk, carry yourself in a very regal manner, and viewers will defer to you, which is the first thing. You must be able to come across as a professional in whatever niche, in whatever sector you're providing value. That's the first thing. And this solution doesn't or isn't constrained to content creation. Because as you know, it's how you do the small things, is how you do the big things. So how you handle your content creation career is most likely how you interact in your day-to-day life. It gets to your turn to speak in a group, and you're just speaking with the consciousness or with the fear that the conversation might be guided out of you or guided from you if a point is not made quickly. So you feel compelled to let it all out, to go on a tantrum, to burst. If you live life that way on a long enough time frame, your peers, your family, your friends, they would identify this anomaly and treat you as such, which is not where you want to be. In fact, it cancels the up or it creates the opposite of the desired outcome, which is confidence. That's the first one. Come across as a professional by pausing, taking your time to speak, taking your time to recollect. Sustain this consciousness that superimposes this idea of a small content creator. Do not call yourself that. Do not address yourself that, even as a joke. I see some of you in the comment section. They're all going to make it. If you're a small content creator, gather here and you feel like this cult, or you feel part of this cult, and you're liking the post or commenting underneath. Bruce Lee famously said, do not laugh at yourself, even as a joke. There are certain things I refuse to admit about myself. Even when I was tiny, 5 feet, I told myself I am a 6'4" individual, and eventually it came to pass. During the infancy of this channel, I refused to address this channel as a small channel or something associated with minuscule. No, I refuse to superimpose that consciousness of a small content creator with you deserve to be heard. Whenever you speak, take your time. You deserve to be heard. In fact, let's run a little experiment. If you ask me, Ifeanyi, how was your day? Immediately I go, it was fine. How was your day? It was fine. Conversely, how was your day? It was fine. Which one come across is at or which one made you come across as a professional? The latter. To stop being in reactive mode, stop trying to respond almost immediately. Take your time, articulate your points, and invariably you will retain viewers. So that's the first one. The second is you're portraying something other than yourself, which leads us to that paradox. The person I like doesn't like me, but the person I don't like is in love with me. The secret behind that paradox is the person you like, you're portraying an identity you believe that person would fall in love with. You're extra caring, you're paying attention, you're nodding your head, you're being too close. But love, proximity of love is suffocating. When you see someone constantly, their presence becomes intoxicating. Even the Bible puts it this way: let your feet be seldom in your neighbor's house, lest he gets weary of thee and hateth thee. A dervish once asked his friend, I've not seen you in a long time. What's the problem? His response, well, the words, I haven't seen you in a long time, are sweeter in my ears than why have you come again? Now, I'm not trying to boil all your love or relationship problems into one sentence. Relationship is dynamic, but it's most likely to the person you like, you're portraying something other than yourself. On the other hand, the person you don't like, you're nonchalant, you don't care, you half listen to them, you read their texts, you leave them unread, you don't respond on time. All of those nonchalant behavior is confidence. Confidence attracts people. Confidence, not agreeability, is what attracts females. Because I assume that an overwhelming portion of my viewers are men. So confidence is what attracts females. That's why it appears as though the lady you don't like is attracted to you. Does that make sense? Awesome. So to tie this point to our concept and how you apply it to your YouTube channel, most of you small content creators, and if you accepted that name, then every single thing I said leading up unto this moment, you have not learned. Go back to the video, you watch it. Majority of you adopt a crappy British accent, especially if you're African. It's terrible. Most of you try to take your personality. Majority of you lie in your videos. Majority of you will go against your own values. Or perhaps you saw something online because smoking while creating content increases engagement. You indulge in that activity, but the viewers can see the discomfort with the cigar, with the smoke, the ambience, every single thing. It's like an energy. It doesn't suit your persona. And we as humans feed off energy. If you walk into a room where you were previously discussed about, you would know. And within a few minutes, you will get up and go, look guys, I think I need to go. And you bounce. No matter how kind they try to be, that mask is incongruent with the atmosphere. You know when someone is genuine. You know when someone is telling lies. You can feel the energy. If you walk into a room and your girlfriend is sad, you will feel it. You will tell what's the problem, XYZ. So stop trying to be something you're not. Stop trying to portray an identity that's not you. Stop doing it. It's driving away viewers. Be as genuine as possible. In fact, as I initially stated, how you do the small things is how you do the big things. And this spills into your general approach as touching life and destiny. Do not change your character in order to be loved by people. Be yourself, and the people who love you for you will come. The viewers who would love you for you will come. So stop trying to adopt someone else's communication style or try to fake your accent or smoke amidst a recording. Indulge in certain kind of things or crack a joke when you know you are an introvert and you like speaking only on philosophy. When you have a deep rooted idea that certain things you are saying aren't even funny, the reactions or trying to be a streamer or adopt that nonchalantness of the average individual. No, jokes aren't funny to you. You hate the idea of degeneracy. You don't want to say certain things or speak in a certain way, all because of engagement, or shake your ass on TikTok with the hope that once you've garnered viewers, you will rebrand. That strategy rarely works. And if it doesn't, you'll be twice as hot because you went against your moral values for results. In fact, that is an accurate description of selling your soul. Majority think is when you sign an explicit contract saying, I sold my soul for money. That's when you sold your soul. No. Anytime you do something incongruent with your values in an attempt to get paid, you have effectively sold your soul. Conversely, if you're yourself, you're genuine, you're unique, and you're pushing out your content, even if it doesn't materialize within the time frame you hoped for, you're not going to be sad. It's a learning experience. In fact, you'll be grateful for that experience because you would have learned a ton of things. You would have gotten a ton of feedback from the various contents. So I'll go over it. The first is to disregard this mindset of loss of attention. Is compelling you to come across as unprofessional. The second is to portray something. Portray yourself, be unique. Portray yourself. Believe in your own abilities. Stop trying to copy someone else or embody their style in order to build a brand. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. Even though it works, you would always be associated with that person. I hate this idea of sharing my success with someone else. That once they call me, is the stunt double of XYZ. No, that person should be my stunt double. That's how I think. And that's the same philosophy every single one of you should adopt. Do not be number two, be number one so number two can learn from you. And if you don't have that kind of self belief in yourself, then work on it and you'll be fine. As always, my friends, it's a pleasure speaking to you. I'll see you in the next one.